Welcome back. For this exercise, this will be an exercise, we're going to monitor the frames as they're generated by the end nodes. And as they go through the hub, we will observe the flooding of the ports at the hub level. And then we'll continue with our observation and see how the frame reaches its destination, what happens with the receiving end node, what it's supposed to be doing, depending on the protocol you're using. I will start the example with an ICMP message, and I will go step by step. Your exercise will be when you have to do an HTTP, basically running an HTTP application using TCP as your connection. It's going to be a connection-oriented connection between you and the server, or the PC and the server. In other words, you're going to have to describe the three-way handshake, right? And you're going to have to observe somewhere in there the acknowledgement and all the other messages associated with the three-way handshake, and the actual payload management of, or the transfer of data from the server to the PC. So that will be your part. My part is to show you a simple example with ICMP. You're going to repeat the same thing by connecting to the server via a web browser, and then at the same time running the simulation. Okay, so let me do the scenario now with ICMP. And so what I'm going to do, I am going to go to simulation mode right here. Okay, and before I do anything, first of all, let me go to each computer here. Let me just close this for a second, just so we have a starting point. And you understand that each one of these computers right here have an IP address. So for example, this one, if we go to its fast Ethernet, has an IP address. This is from the previous lab we did together, right? So this one has an IP address. So make sure that all your computers have an IP address. Watch the previous video when we did the hub lab, okay? Okay. Now you could use your mouse to hover over the end nodes to see they all have IP addresses. They all belong to the same broadcast domain, and they're all physically connected to this hub with straight throughs, which means they're all under the same collision domain. So that's a quick review of what we've done before. Perfect. Now let's go to the simulation. And here we are. I'm going to go to this PC right here. I'm going to go to its command prompt. And let me clear the screen here. I'm not sure if CLS works here. Clear. It's not taking up all the DOS commands here, but that's okay. Let's do this. Let me close it and bring it back. So hopefully that will. Nope, it doesn't. So it has all the instructions we've done before. So at this stage, let's go ahead and do a ping to the server, right? So let me do an IP config first to see who we are. Here we are. We are 192.168.10.2. That's this PC 0 right here, okay? And it shows PC 0 right here. Now we're going to do ping 192.168.10.1. Okay, so I'm going to hit enter. And notice that my command requires that we access the network and transmit a frame across. So let me just move this to the side here. And notice there's a frame right here sitting at idle with PC 0. If you look at the simulation, that's exactly what we have right here. It's an ICMP message, and it's sitting here. So if I click here, you can see from an OSI point of view, this is an outgoing frame with 0.2 as the source, 0.1 as the destination, at layer 3, at layer 2, the MAC address, or the MAC layer, you have the MAC addresses of the source and destination. And then at layer 1, which is the physical address, the port it's going out from. And then here is the frame. This is an Ethernet frame. If I scroll down, this is an ICMP message, okay? And it's going to require that the receiver, basically the server, will send an echo back, okay? So we could do this one step at a time. So let me just close this here. But I want you to see now what happens when it goes to the hub. Right? So it's at the hub now. Now, let me click one more time. Watch what the hub does. Bingo. What did the hub do? What did I tell you about hubs? Basically, they will flood all the ports, right? A message come in from one port, they're going to come out on all ports. So we're seeing that right now. Notice these big X's here that are flashing. That means these computers recognize that this frame doesn't belong to them. Let me just click in there. You could see they're not intending to reply at all, okay? So they've received this frame, but they understand because the destination MAC address does not match their own, they don't have to respond. Okay, that's a key ingredient in this network. Now, notice that X means they don't have to respond. Let's go over here. This one, on the other hand, the outgoing message is being prepared right here, okay? At least from the OSI model point of view. We can see the outbound PDU here and the type 00, which is an echo. Let's go to the inbound, which is type 08, which is the request, okay? So we can see there are two different messages, and this one here is preparing its echo back, right? To acknowledge that, yes, I did receive it and it's ready to transmit it. So let's see what happens now. So if I go to the next level, boom, it gets transmitted. Now remember, your hub does not remember or even acknowledge that the other PCs don't need this frame. Now, if that was a switch, that would have been a different game. That's another lab, okay? So because it is a hub, it doesn't care. What it's going to do now, it's going to flood again all ports. And again, PC1 and PC2 will not respond because, hey, the destination MAC address doesn't match theirs, so they don't have to do anything. However, PC0, on the other hand, says, yep, that's for me. Transmission complete. And that's it. I mean, if I keep clicking here, nothing happens. I'm just repeating the same process. You see that? So I'm just repeating the same concept. Okay? So now let me clear up this one and let's do it again in a different way. And let's go to real time. Let me go to simulation. And we're going to repeat that command right here, ping 192.168.10.1. But this time, I'm going to simply run it. I'm going to hit the run button right here instead of step by step. Watch what happens now. So it gives you an idea. So it pauses for a second or two. Boom. Floods all ports. Server is going to respond back. Floods all ports. There you go. PC0 receives it. Check mark. We're good. Okay. So what happens with PC0 when that happens? That means right here, and notice here it's sending. That's the first element. So notice it's doing it again and again. So we have all these packets here being sent right here. Watch this. This is happening live. And let me just move this to the side here. So remember this one line by line. until it's done. So all of these have to be transmitted. They will be received. The server will echo back. Okay, and we can see the time it takes. Now, obviously, the simulator slows down the time. There's no way you can catch 4 milliseconds, visually speaking. Okay, but the simulator is slowing it down for us, but it's the effect of 4 milliseconds per transaction. There you go. Okay, response back. Frame will be received, and that's the last one. Okay, so 4 sent, 4 received, 0% loss. Okay, all right, well, let's do that for connecting to the website and see what the story is behind it. Now, this is your turn. Okay, so let me reset this. I'm just going to close it and turn it back on. Go to real time, go back here, okay? And I'm going to go to the PC now, any of the PCs. Let me just go over here. PC 1 this time. And I'm going to do an HTTP connection. I'm going to go to 192.168. This is what you need to do in your write-up, what you need to pursue. .10.1. Now, as soon as I hit enter, notice the simulator is freezing everything, which is fine. So you could run it, and you should run it one step at a time. So what I'm going to do, however, is run it completely and watch the frames going back and forth. And what kind of frames? Prior to this, when we did the ICMP, there were all ICMP frames, but the type was slightly different. Okay? So you had type 008 or type 000, right? So here, let's see what happens. So I'm going to run this whole thing. And at the same time, I want to be able to see what's going on with the web page. Notice we're establishing a connection. Okay, notice the other PCs do not need to reply, but the hub will always transmit on all ports. Notice what PC1 is doing. Once it has completed a TCP connection, then we have an HTTP application running. Okay? So I want you to go step by step, however, and try to understand what happened. Now notice at the end, what you end up with is the web page loaded up on the browser. The connection has to close. Okay? So you have to establish a connection, and then you have to close it. And I need you to observe that and see how did that happen. Okay, so notice it's still doing, even though it loaded the page. Okay. Now, luckily, loading a page is a lot faster than this. But since this is a simulation, it's slowing down every step. Okay, done. Okay, so now we've captured all of these transmissions. You need to figure out what are they for. Have fun, and I will see you for the next lesson.